Welcome to National Ag Day, Farmer Time, for our fourth session today on the 20th of November 2020. And we're very grateful to have in on our Fisher Time presentation for this hour from Damien Bell and Justine Arnold from way over in WA. And we're very, very fortunate to have two wonderful people involved in the fisheries industry with us today. So I might hand over to Justine to start, and then we'll hand over to Damien, who's got some exciting hands-on things to show us very soon. Over to you, Justine.
All right, so I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Is that working? Can you see that?
It is. It's perfect.
Yeah, so I've just got a bit of a presentation. So who am I and what do I do? So my name is Justine. Is it going to click over? Yep. And I am the manager of a fish farm. So I am a farmer, but not your typical type of farmer, the one that wears a straw hat and overalls. I wear wetsuits and wet weather gear. So this are a few pictures of me on the farm, swimming with the fish, feeding the fish, doing some dissections with some school kids, and holding some broodstock fish. So the company I work for is called Indian Ocean Fresh Australia. So what do? We farm. We farm award-winning yellowtail kingfish. So this is one of our fish pictured here. You can still see my screen, yeah?
Yep, all good.
Yep. So where in Australia are we actually based? So we're based in Geraldton, so all the way over here. And you can see on the far right, is a picture of the Geraldton town, and our sea cages are actually just out there where the yellow is. So this is a picture of the Geraldton Harbour, where we operate out of, the Geraldton Fisherman's Wharf. So we operate boats and different things like that. Where do we get our baby fish from? So we get baby fish we put them in cages in the ocean, and then we grow them out to a bigger size, and then we harvest them for food. So I'm just going to run you through the process of how we do that. So we get baby fish from, which are the ones in the picture, we get them from a hatchery in Fremantle in Perth. So they go on a 4-hour truck ride in a tank up to Geraldton. So some pictures of the fish in their tanks. They're based in Fremantle. So they spend 4 hours in this tank on a truck, and then it's Tammy lifted onto a boat, and then the boat is driven out to our cages, and the fish are this valve is open, and the fish go down this pipe and into the cage. So what does like a normal day on our farm look like? So there's a few different operational things that we do. So this includes feeding, diving, net cleaning. We have to manage parasites and look after the health of the fish. So this is an aerial view of our farm. So we've got 6 cages in this picture. So these, you can see the boat here is feeding. And so this is an aerial view of one of our cages. So there's nets on the inside, and then the fish are all swimming around on the inside. And so these cages are moored to the sea floor, so they don't move. So we've got all the anchors and chain and rope that keep them there. So you can see how big that anchor is compared to this guy. He's pretty tall. And we have to feed our fish. So when they're small, when they're juvenile fish, we have to feed them 2 times a day, so every morning and every night. When they're a bit bigger, when they're big fish, we only feed them once a day. So you can see them there having a good feed. We feed with different methods. So this is a big water cannon, so it's spraying the feed across the cage with a big jet. And then this is the feed that we give to them, which is kind of like basically dog biscuits, but specially designed for fish nutrition requirements. So we care for our fish. We monitor the health of them. Just a little video of us diving with the fish. So these are baby ones, juveniles that have just gone in. So you can see the net that they're in, and they're swimming around, enjoying being in the ocean. And then these are our bigger fish.
What sort of fish are they, Justine?
It's just a bit of footage being in the water with them. So we need to make sure that we keep our nets nice and clean as well. So this is a dirty net and this is a clean net. So we have to get all this growth off the nets. So they're nice and clean. This is a bit of a view of what it looks like under the water. So you can see these are net weights. There's 2 nets. And we do a lot of maintenance. So fixing of nets, stitching. You can see how big this net is. It's huge because compared to the size of the people. Monitoring the health of the fish. So here we're taking the bloods. So we get readings on what their levels are like and monitor that.
What exactly are you testing for there,
So we're
Justine?
testing for disease or early signs of disease. So we can pick it up like in the white blood cell counts and different things like that to make sure that, like, monitor the stress levels.
And Justine, can you hear me? What type of fish? You haven't let them know yet.
Oh, yellowtail kingfish.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very good.
You can see them behind me here also.
Yep. They're beautiful. There was another question about what's the food made from?
So it's specifically designed for fish, and it's lots of different types of things you can put in different fish food, but the nutritional requirements of kingfish require like a high protein, high fat, so it's kind of like fish meal and mash and ash and different stuff like that.
And do you make that yourself or do you buy that ready?
No, so we buy that in, it's a commercial diet. So there are manufacturing companies in Tasmania and Queensland that make those feeds that we get in, we buy off them. Okay. So they're designed for each fish. So salmon have different food requirements to kingfish because kingfish are really fast growing fish. So because they grow so fast, they need lots of energy and nutrition to keep them, you know, so they don't have any health issues. So this is a bit of a dissection image of one of our fish. So you can see the gill are here. So the fish, they get parasites on them, so we need to manage that. And we do that by bathing them, which is quite an in-depth thing, which I'm not going to go into here because it's quite, a bit complicated. But these are 2 of the parasites we get, so skin fluke and gill fluke. So you can see this guy hooks onto the fish gills, and these are some pictures of sections of fish gills, and these are the lamellae, and then this is one of those gill fluke. So this guy here, and you can see he's got these hooks and they're hooking and clamping onto the gill of the fish. I thought that was a pretty cool picture.
Fantastic.
So we have fish vets that we talk to, which help us monitor the health of the fish on the farm. And if we have any issues, we give them a call and they come out to our farm and visit. And I just want to talk to you a bit about how we harvest the fish, because that's something that people often wonder. So we have all of the fish in the cage. We run we call it a seine net through the whole cage and capture like a portion of the fish. So you can see in here where the yellow is. Then we run a braille net through, so that big net that's run through the cage and lifted up, and it's popped onto this table here, and it's let go, and then the fish are sent down into this cradle, and then once they're in the cradle, little knives go through it, and that's how the fish are dispatched. So where do our fish go once they're harvested? So our fish are harvested to order. So depending on what people want, we harvest for them. So these are 3 different sizes. So there's big, medium, small size fish. So it just depends on what people want as to what we order. So we wash all of our fish before they're sent out to market, and then we pack them in these boxes. So these are poly boxes, just with ice, and then they're popped onto a truck, and then they're sent out domestically all around Australia. So we don't export any of our fish. We just send them domestically. So our biggest markets are in Sydney and Melbourne. Mm-hmm. So when a customer gets our fish, so we send them whole like this, and then they turn it into these beautiful creations. So we grow our fish for food, and the end product is food for human consumption. So there's sashimi, beautiful ceviche dishes. Chefs do amazing things with our food, with our fish, create them into beautiful, and it's mainly eaten raw, so it's not cooked, it's better raw fish. And so, we are primary producers. Any questions? Any more questions?
I have questions. So what's the, how long's it take between when you like put the they're called fingerlings, are they?
Yeah, fingerlings, yeah.
From when you put the fingerlings in to when they're ready to go and be sold?
Market? Yeah, so it depends on what size the market wants. So if the market wants 1 kilo fish, 2 kilo fish, 3 kilo fish, generally it takes 12 months to get to 3 kilos.
Okay. And what do, like, restaurants, what do they normally ask for?
They normally want 3 to 4 kilo fish, because they use the fillets for sashimi. The bigger the fish, the better the fillet, so off that shoulder. So they prefer the 4 kilo, 4 kilo fish.
Okay. And do you give the fish any medication or anything like that to apart from their feed? Do you give them anything in the feed to protect them against you were talking about parasites before?
Yeah, so they do get diseases which are mainly bacterial, so we don't get any viruses, but at this stage, but we've only had bacterial diseases. We do treat when they do get a bacterial disease, but we have to send samples away to the vet, and then they diagnose what disease it is, and then they let us know if we are allowed, or what chemical, what therapeutic would be best to use. And then we do treat with antibiotics if they are sick and the vet says we need to. And we've only done that maybe 3 or 4 times, because we've now developed a vaccine. So there's a vaccine that we give the fish, that will protect them against these bacterial diseases. Yeah.
Right. That's very smart.
Yeah, it's great. We've come a long way.
Yeah. So when you say vaccines, how would you give the fish the vaccine?
So that's all done in a hatchery. So it's individually fish. Each fish is injected with a vaccine.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's done before they come to us. Yeah.
Wow. Right.
Yeah. So I think they're probably about that big.
Yep.
Yeah.
So another question. So what's the water temperature there where the farm is?
So our water temperature ranges from 18 degrees in winter up to 26 degrees in summer. So it's quite a big range. Kingfish are a temperate fish, so it's quite good for them. They grow all year round, so they don't stop growing, which is also another good thing, which is why Geraldton's a really good spot for farming.
And so apart from kingfish, are there other types of fish that are raised in that region in the same way?
Yeah, so there are 2 ocean fish farms in WA, so Kingfish and Barramundi. They're the only 2 ocean farms at the moment, but they're with aquaculture. They're branching out into corals over at the Abrolhos Islands, which is off the coast of Geraldton. Oysters, they do pearls. Down south, they've got abalone. What else?
Blue mussels
down south. pearl shells. They've now started doing little Akoya pearls for meat for food. Yeah, that's about aquaculture in WA.
Yeah, yeah. That's so. It's so. Does the aquaculture industry attract tourism? Is that an added feature of the industry up there?
I don't know. It's nowhere that I know of is doing tours of the fish farms. I mean, we did do tours, but for government officials and things like that out to our farm, and people always do love watching them feed because they're quite ferocious. They're like, ah.
Yeah.
But tourism wasn't part of what we did. No, but we did a lot of training. So we did hosted summer interns. They did a little research project for us. We did work experience students. We did like a work experience workshop. We've done quite a bit to further the education of people and making sure they're job ready when they go to a job, because it's not easy to learn about this stuff unless you're doing it.
That's right. Exactly right. I have a question from Brad. How deep does the water need to be to house the pens?
So it depends on what your site is as to what gear you put on your site. So for our site, we're in 12 meters of water. So we design and get the nets made to the depth that we want. So we run 2 nets. The outside net is a predator net to exclude predators. So they can't access the fish. And then on the inside, there's a grow out net, which is where the fish are housed. So there's like a meter buffer between the two. So the predator net is deeper. So it's about 10 meters and the fish grow out net is at 9.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are the predators?
So you get things like seals, mackerel, like sharks, bigger fish looking for a quick feed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, instant dinner time.
Sorry?
Instant dinner.
Yeah, so we don't actually have we don't have trouble with predators, to be honest. Those nets work quite well, but there's a crayfishing industry out of Geraldton, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Another question for you. Technology is used more and more in a range of industries. So what's changed in terms of the use of technology in your industry and the farm over the last 10 years?
So much has changed. We're always looking at ways to better what we do, to make it more streamlined, better for us, better for the fish. Because Geraldton is known for its wind. It is quite a windy city. In the afternoons, it can get quite rough. So I'll talk about the feeding side of things. So in the video I showed before, you can feed by just throwing it out with a hand scoop. You can feed with a jet, like a water cannon. But in the last year, we purchased, and I'm not sure if you can see it in the picture that I'm sharing, but there's a blower. So it's you load all the food into a 1 ton, 2 ton hopper, and then it's blown out across the cage. And there's like a little arm. It's like, what's that thing off Doctor Who? And it just spins like that and blows the feed across the cage. So it requires no manual labor or anything. It's quite good. But we don't use different things like underwater cameras and monitoring, because we are quite a small farm. We're not a huge farm, but lots of aquaculture companies have been doing that, and also using like robots to do the net cleaning and different things like that. But we don't do that. Not big enough.
Yep. And I assume, do you use drones to monitor without having to go out to look at what's happening, or
No, we haven't done that. Yeah, we are 3 kilometers off the coast, so we could do that. But yeah, it's too windy in Geraldton to use a drone. You'll get blown away.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, and we'll hand over to Damien now.
How do I?
Thanks, Justine. That was sensational.
Yeah, sorry I breezed through it a bit quickly there, but
No, that's all good. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. All right, Damien.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. How are we? Okay. Basically, I'm a commercial fisherman in Mandurah, which is an hour south of Perth. I'm going to show you a couple of my boats, and then I'm going to show you some of the product that I catch and how to fillet it. But I'm an estuarine fisherman in a small estuary, about half the size of Sydney Harbour, but it's very shallow. It's only 2 metres in depth, and it's about an hour south of Perth. This is one of my netting boats. That's for the fish. You can see the motor is mounted in the middle, and the net flows over the back. And then you've got my crabbing boat, which I use for catching the blue swimmer crab. And at the moment, we're in the off season. We're closed down for 3 months. And over here, I'll show you a 3-month closure on crabs. Over here, hopefully you can see them. They're 3 of my traps. We're allowed to run 42 traps. I work by myself. I don't have a deckhand, and I pull everything by hand. There's no winches, so there's no mechanics in my industry. My winches are these things, 2 of them. My GPS and echo sounders in here because we work in such shallow water. We'd like a little niche cottage fishery. What has changed, instead of the boats being wooden with sail, they're aluminium with outboard motors. But otherwise, we're not far back from where the industry first started in the 1800s. What I'll do is just hand this to my wife so I can show you how to operate one of the crab pots.
Fantastic. So, when's the crabbing season?
We start on December 1,
okay,
and we go through until the end of August. Okay.
Excellent.
So he's pointed.
I'm trying to switch camera.
Pointed at this.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yep.
So that's the cod trap. Basically, it opens up on the bottom. I insert the bait. The bait goes into the pole there, and then that trap will collapse and be able to be stacked on the boat. So the bait, generally we just use the mullet frames that I've filleted out, and the bait just slides in like that, and then that pops in there, that closes over, that lands down on the bottom, and the crabs walk up in here to go and get the bait. What we've got is escape gaps for the babies, so the small ones can get out. So we don't want to harvest or catch the smaller crabs, so that's set to keep a large male-sized crab and let the other ones disappear and go. But what I'd like to show you also, so this is one of the species of fish we catch. This is sea mullet, and we catch a lot of other estuarine species, or a few other estuarine species, but this is 70% of our catch. This is sold, now we get probably 90% of my catch goes edible, whereas when I first started 15 years ago, this was a bait fishery with a little bit of edible, but over the last decade, we've swapped it over to being just about 90% edible now. We catch a little bit of bait for ourselves and a little bit of bait for the recreational sector. I probably catch per week and sell about half a ton of this product, or I share that with my brother. My brother fishes too. So our family unit, we sell about half a ton of edible mullet per week. Now, if you watch, I'll show you how to fillet this. Basically, always have a sharp knife. One of your main things is a sharp knife, so I just use a stone. I always start, it's been pre-scaled. I scaled it before. So lift up the pectoral fin, diagonal cut, come around in here. I don't put all the knife through now, the whole knife goes through. I take my fillet over the rib cage. I don't leave the rib cage on the fillet. And there's a fillet, and you'll find that's boneless. The bones I've left here, the pin bones and the stomach bones, goes in. My hand's in the way, but goes through, comes out there, and then there's another fillet. And that there we sell to a few chefs. It can be smoked, it can be pan fried, but what I'll show you here, if you just have a look at this, like Justine was saying, you can have it raw. That's just with a bit of soy sauce. Straight in. Nothing wrong with it. So I love it. So, but most of the people will pan fry it. You swap it around now.
Mm.
2 seconds.
That looks delicious.
Hopefully that came through clearly enough.
No,
Basically, our fishery's been operating since first settlement here in Western Australia, and we were supplying food up to the Perth colony, up to the Swan River colony. And now, again, most of my product, a little bit stays in Mandurah, but I sell to my father, who has a refrigerated van, and Dad will take the product off me first thing in the morning. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It takes me 2 hours to do my crabs. I'll meet Dad on the beach, or I'll go to his house and we'll weigh the crabs up, put them live in crates. All these crates you see stacked up here with wet hessian on into his refrigerated van, and they go and we drop off to over a day. Dad might do in his worst day 300 kilometres. So it's 75 kilometres to Perth from here, and then he'll run around to 10 or so different retailers in the Perth metropolitan area and sell our product direct. We don't deal with very many restaurants because they just can't take the quantities that we need to supply, but we'll supply to the likes of Kalis Brothers, Sea Lane, Seafresh Inaloo, Seafresh Myrie, and quite a few others. People do buy direct off us when we land sometimes. Like there's quite a few locals that have worked out our patterns, and they'll be sitting there waiting in the morning, and we'll sell direct off the back of the boat to them, whether it be fish or crabs. But as I mentioned, I will then, after crabbing, I might have a quick breakfast at home. That's about 9 o'clock by then. I'll swap boats, get in my netting boat and go hunting for the sea mullet. And we, as Justine said, we fish to order, and we know in any given week, we need to catch a minimum of 300 kilos, tops 500 kilos of sea mullet. But then there'll be herring, tailor, whiting, during the winter a bit of cobbler, but it's all to order. And with most West Australian fisheries, and also all fisheries in Australia, I should actually say, with the government, the way we're regulated now, just about every fishery has caps on what they're allowed to catch, how much they're to catch, and it's set at sustainable levels. Mm-hmm. So we are actually guaranteed 100% sustainable. Our fishery was the first fishery in the world to go through a Marine Stewardship Council eco accreditation, and we've got the Marine Stewardship Council tick of sustainable sector for the blue swimmer crabs, and that was a world first. Nowhere has anyone in the world ever tried or done what we have done and get the accreditation for both recreational and commercial. And what it's meant is the recreational sector over the last 5 years, we've been able to negotiate our way through sectorial issues and through resource sharing issues. And we're still here and we're still functioning, and we're only 75 kilometres from the Perth metropolitan area. If you look at other fisheries around Australia, like the Victorian Bays and Inlet, they've just lost 46 fishermen. And that was a swap over where the government decided to give the resource to the recreational sector rather than have it available for a wild harvest. And the people actually lose out. The restaurant owners, the consumers actually lose out. They lose access to that fish. So it's very important that we're primary producers and we're allowed to stay working and stay supplying fresh, local and sustainable seafood to the Australian consumer. And during COVID, we've actually found the demand for fresh, local West Australian product, and I'll stretch it to Australian product, guaranteed Australia, increased at a retail level. I understand, unfortunately, some people lost business with the shutting down of restaurants, but we supplied to retailers and the demand actually went up. So people were gun shy on imported stuff. They were happy to buy fresh local produce, and we saw an increase in demand for our product. So during COVID, we've actually survived quite well. But it's a push that we've all got in the fishing industry, is to have country of origin labelling and see, let the consumer know that what they're buying is actually Australian product or West Australian product.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another word that we've come down to now, where the locality of the product is at Providence is actually selling the product for us. So in the store, you'll get the ice pick product of Mandurah mullet, Mandurah crabs. And people know that it's only from 75 kilometres away, and it was caught today and it's delivered today and it walks out the door. It's a real selling point now. So on a national basis, country of origin labelling would be brilliant, because then in a restaurant and everyone else, and for Justine's product, she wouldn't be competing on a menu with imported product, which is bought in cheaper and sold, and the poor consumer sitting there doesn't know whether they're eating Geraldton produced fine quality yellowtail kingfish or frozen imported stuff from Indonesia, or China or wherever. So our standards are higher, our quality is better, our price might be a little bit more, but people are prepared to pay for it if they know. So we're here as a group now of, there's only 6 fishermen left in my fishery. There used to be 150. So in World War II was about the last time we supplied bulk fish, and that was for World War I, was for the canneries for the Australian troops. They were canning our mullet and sending it to the Australian troops. But over time, the demand and the bulk, especially in the 70s, to the crayfishing industry, that we remember a bait industry, we were catching 1,000 tonnes of fish out of this estuary. We're now down to catching only about 1/10 of that, or less actually. So the fish are still there, if you can imagine, but there's only 6 fishermen versus 150 fishermen. But what has increased is the recreational sector. So the total catch is balanced out between the recs and the commercial. I'm trying to think of much else. Is there any questions you guys have got about my fishery?
I have a question. So with your crabs and your and the fish that you catch, so you harvest and then you sell in the same day. You don't have to store any of your products. It all gets sold within the same day.
There's our motto on the back there. See that?
Yep.
So our stuff is fresh, local, sustainable. That's our motto. And my father, if I'm not delivering, Dad does. And at times the crabs are still moving when they're put on the shelf. Like at Kalis Leaderville, we've had instances where the staff get bitten as they're trying to lay the crabs out on the shelf. The crabs are still moving. The crabs are still alive. We do supply some live crabs to there's places. I look after a tourism Mandurah cruises down here that had a great amount of Chinese coming prior to COVID, and they wanted live crabs on board. I was doing live crabs to them. So no, our product is not stored and frozen and packed. It's very similar to Justine. It's fresh, it's ordered, it's shipped, but we are geographically closer to the metropolitan area. So our product can be caught and delivered in the same morning, which is pretty incredible, and it's part of the reason why we've survived. Yeah, it's part of the reason why we've survived.
Yeah. So how far out do you have to go and fish in the ocean for crabs and for mullet? Is there a different distance?
I might not have been clear. I'm an estuary fisherman. I'm not actually allowed in the ocean. My fishery, my license that I've bought restricts me from where I'm allowed to fish. It's part of the rules and regulations of being a commercial fisherman. So there's a set number of fishermen. There's a set number of days I'm allowed to work. There's a set number of hours within those days that I'm allowed to work. Like my crabs, I'm only allowed to work from 3:30 in the morning to 9:30 in the morning. I'm not allowed to work them any other time, and I'm only allowed to work them Tuesday to Saturday mornings. And we have to remove our gear from the water every Saturday morning. We're not allowed to put it back in until Monday morning. It allows the resource to be returned to the recreational sector, and it lessens arguments. So I'm restricted to the Peel Harvey estuary, which from my back door is about 1 kilometre. So I just tow my boat down to one of my local boat ramps. I launch at about 4:30 in the morning. So for me, from work to home is a 5-minute exercise. But then, you know, you have to process the fish or package it. And that's why I do have a big walk-in cool room and freezer. And this is my I live out here in this area out here. I've got an ice machine in the shed, which is working now, churning out fresh ice. I do all my own maintenance, I make my own nets, I make my own pots, I do my own motor maintenance, I do my own trailer maintenance. This is a fish scaler too. So when I need to commercially rumble fish, this thing here, it's got a electric motor on the side. The fish go into that, water is jetted through there, and you can see here, it knocks all the knocks all the scales off the fish for me, so then I can just stand there and fillet them. So yeah, we are not permitted to work anywhere other than the Peel Harvey fishery, and within the fishery, I have closed and open areas.
Fantastic. Well, sorry, I'm just getting all these little text messages from teachers apologising about not being able to connect, but that's okay. I
could say one other thing. In whole, the West Australian fishing industry, there's now less than 300 crow boats or rock lobster boats. There used to be 900. We're down to about 300 working lobster boats. I think it's 278 or something now. There's a prawn trawling industry still, scallop and prawn trawling industry. We've got a wetline fishery, which fishes wet fish up and down the West Australian coast. There's a couple of different commercial crab fisheries. We still do employ a few people, but the ancillary runoff processing side of things, where there's larger factories which take our product and process it and then deliver it out to the retail sector and to the restaurant sector. So I know that the industry has shrunk, but we still do provide a fair level of employment and also income and also money to the Australian or the West Australian economy.
That's fantastic. I wish I lived over there, but your fish and your crabs are getting me very hungry at the moment.
No worries.
All good. Well, I'd like to thank you both for your presentation today. It's very fascinating from the point of view that we have a range of different industries that we're talking about today, and you know, getting into the heads of kids that a farm doesn't necessarily have to be with cows and pasture. The farm can be in the water, and exactly what it is. You're farming fish products, and it's fantastic products that all manner of different sorts of products, and it's about getting into kids' heads about the fact that farming is more than just about a farmer on a tractor, and it's a range of different industries. So,
yeah.
So, Justine, would it be possible for you to share your presentation with me at some stage?
Yeah, I can do that.
That'd be fantastic, and that's wonderful. Well, thank you both for your presentation today, and look, we'll definitely have this up and share it with lots of classrooms across Australia. So I really appreciate your time and your support of us on National Ag Day today for Fisher Time.
Well, we need a T-shirt. I love fishers. Next time I see you, I want I love fishers, not I love farmers.
We'll do. Don't you worry.
Okay. I need a hug too. Remember that.
Indeed. Thanks heaps.
See you guys.
Take care. Thanks so much.